Rue, I'm so lonely.
Me too. Don't forget about me.
That old lady, she doesn't even know we exist.
Rue. Eat us all. Eat
Us.
all. Eat us all. Eat us all.
Despite only having 2 seasons under its belt, Euphoria is HBO's second most popular show of all time, behind Game of Thrones. And that fact surprised me at first. Euphoria is an odd show. Its narrative is sometimes told out of order, scenes sometimes blur the line between fantasy and reality, and it has some very unusual shot and editing choices.
Now, there's a couple versions of what happened that night. It all depends on who you ask, and to be honest, I'm not always the most reliable narrator.
After watching the show the first time, I came away thinking that it was way too strange for your average viewer. But after the second watch through of Euphoria, I found it much more tame and easy to follow than the first time. Granted, on the second viewing, I knew key information from future episodes that I shouldn't have known, but sadly you can never rewatch a show again for the first time, no matter how badly you want to. The show also didn't grab me like it did the first time. On the second go-around, I knew all of the promise the show had in its early episodes is ultimately squandered, as it spins its wheels on the same plot points that are introduced in the first half of Season 1. See, the show operates on what's sometimes called hyperrealism, with all the characters suffering or going through things that could reasonably happen to one unlucky person, but the odds of all of these events happening to people in the same small group of friends is fucking astronomical. It's kind of like a condensed version of reality. Euphoria is a very well-directed show, and clearly the goal of the more non-traditional shots is to make you feel high, disconnected from reality, and to get into the characters' heads. And it does a great job of this, especially with the daydreaming scenes of characters doing or saying what they wish they could say or do in real life. They're both fun and insightful. With my personal favorite being when the show becomes a shitty Law and Order knockoff, complete with film grain, with Rue and Lexi walking around their normal sets dressed as hard-boiled detectives, chain-smoking cigarettes, trying to piece together a mystery.
Doesn't that seem like the first logical step? Honestly, Howard, this whole thing is beyond logic.
The show handles these rapid changes in tone from super dark, depressing, intense, to funny and zany, scene to scene, episode to episode, well enough. It's not perfect, but it's done better here than it is in Skins at least. Actually, Skins isn't a bad comparison for better and worse. Euphoria feels a whole lot like an adult version of Skins, but with more nudity and drugs, and a cast that doesn't speak like they all have fucking brain damage.
Dude, he's gross!
Speaking of the cast, the acting all around Euphoria is very solid with a few standout performances. Zendaya as Rue has enough charm and charisma to fulfill her role as our main character and unreliable narrator well enough. But she shows quite the range, going from funny and witty to a terrifying monster of a broken young woman when the drugs finally run out.
What the fuck else am I supposed to do, huh? What do you want me to do?
The only other thing I'd seen Zendaya in previously is the new Dune film, where she plays Chani. Now granted, she was barely fucking in Dune, but what I saw of her did not impress. But after watching her performance in Euphoria, I feel much better about her having a bigger role in Dune Part 2, The Revengeing. Another notable performance is Hunter Schafer, who plays Rue's love interest Jules. Apparently she was mainly a model, with Euphoria being her acting debut. And she does a decent job and holds her own against the rest of the cast. She, like most of them, doesn't really gain any major character development, but her character is fun in a crazy girl next door kind of way. She was also in the English dub of Mamoru Hosoda's new film Belle. I guess sometimes a weeb's dreams do come true.
I'm probably gonna do some homework, binge watch some Madoka Magica.
Okay, well...
Eric Dane as Cal is a real highlight. He looks and plays the role of an intense, closed-off, harsh, demanding, and overbearing asshole so well, it's a genuine surprise when you start to sympathize with him. They set him up to be the main antagonist early on with an interesting enough premise, but then slowly reveal what he's truly like. A deeply flawed man, stuck in a life he didn't want or choose. Dane's unexpected performance and character arc in Season 2 is one of the few joys in this season that turns out to be a giant waste of fucking time. But there's an issue. And that issue is Cal's son Nate, played by Jacob Elordi. Elordi does such a convincing job being an unlikable fuckhead that you'd love to hate him. But him and his dad's stories are inseparable, and therein lies the issue. Nate gets way more screen time than Cal, but it's often unclear what Nate's true motivations are behind a lot of his actions. Narcissism, repressed homosexuality, and the raw, unrestrained anger stemming from childhood trauma is for sure a part of it. But Nate's actions in the show go from him just being the world's biggest high school bully all the way to a fucking anime villain at the drop of a hat. The show kinda toys with the idea that he might be mentally ill in some way, but never fully commits to it. It feels like the show has no idea what the fuck to do with him, but wants him to be the main antagonist regardless. In season 2, they dangle the idea that he might be trying to change and be a better person, only to have him turn right the fuck back around and be a vile piece of shit all over again. There is a lot they could do with Nate, but the writers seem incapable of thinking of interesting places to take him, and by proxy, Cal. That's not to say Cal and Nate don't do anything in the show. They do, especially Nate. But for everything they do, all they manage to accomplish is move the plot forward a few inches over the span of both seasons. And similar issues plagues the show from start to finish. Season 1 starts strong with several good episodes early on, but ultimately loses steam about halfway through. Season 2 also starts strong, but falls apart much faster than Season 1. It also forgets about several key characters from Season 1 almost entirely, with the spotlight instead focusing on a handful of the main cast, with all the side characters being pushed even further into the periphery. The only side character that migrates into the spotlight is Lexi. Now, staying true to its name, Euphoria is a show about the feeling atheists get when they think about how smart and totally not cringy they are. Fuck, wrong definition. Euphoria is about vice. Nearly every character in the show is a fucking degenerate heathen. You know shit's bad when the fucking drug dealer is the only person in the whole show who legitimately believes in some form of a higher power.
Hell yeah, I believe in God.
The addictions on display run the gambit from sex, drugs, attention, drugs, love, money, control, drugs. In Rue's case, it's a fuck ton of drugs. You get the idea. So it's a welcome change when Lexi starts playing a major role in the show's narrative. Her being one of the few characters on the straight and narrow, and a relative outsider to the show's major events up until that point, makes her the straight man to everyone else's drama and drug-fueled bullshit. The mid-season 2 introduction of Lexi's plans to put on a high school play based on all the other characters' dirty laundry leads to the 2-part season finale that is exactly the type of creative and funny reality-warping meta bullshit that makes Euphoria unique and fun to watch. It's just a shame that Euphoria doesn't do more of it. Instead, it settles for rehashing basic teen drama for the majority of its runtime. Over the course of Euphoria's 2 8-episode seasons, fuck and all gets done. Nate and Maddie break up and get back together like 4 fucking times. Kat hates her boyfriend but takes 2 seasons to break up with him. Cassie's hoeing ways keeps getting her in trouble.
I can't say it to her, but you two can say it to me.
I never said you didn't have any self-respect.
You don't have to. I can fucking feel it.
Oh, she needs a fucking exorcism.
Rue is on drugs, then she's off of drugs, then she's back on drugs, and then she's off drugs, and now she's back to eating fucking fentanyl. Her and Jules are a couple, then they're not, then they are, then they're not, then they are, but this time there's a guy involved. It's all fucking nonsense in the end. Everyone besides maybe Cal are nearly in the exact same position they were in the beginning of season 1. And that's not to mention the incredibly stupid and unexplained decision one character makes at the end of the second season. With all the downtime, you'd imagine the writers would have given him a scene or two to better explain why he would choose to do what he does, rather than wasting the time showing Maddie getting drunk with the mother of the kid she should be fucking babysitting in a pool. The show being named Euphoria is a fitting one. Just like with drugs, the show needs to keep upping the dose of teen drama and the shock value of watching kids fucking do hardcore drugs to achieve the desired effect. But the focus on upping the ante instead of actual plot or character progression is starting to kill the show. I'm uncertain if I'll show up for season 3, but I finally understand why it's HBO's second biggest show of all time. Don't be fooled by the high production values and the glimpses of brilliance. Euphoria is just a CW teen drama, but on HBO.